So last night, Donald Trump became the 47th president of the United States of America. I don't have a disbelief or a surprise or, oh my gosh, what did America get itself into? I understood before the race that Donald Trump would win. I also successfully predicted that Donald Trump will win in 2016. Yesterday, I talked to so many homies who were hopeful, and I was hopeful too. But at the exact same time, I was also very objective. And this being living good with Dom, where I help you go from living just okay to living good, I want to infuse spirituality and mindfulness and tips on how to see life in a way that's successful for you in every episode. So I won't shy away from that in this. I think what I really want to talk about in this episode, this reaction episode, I want to talk about how I was able to predict 2016 and 2024, because it wasn't by chance and it wasn't by luck. It was by a philosophical understanding of how I choose to view the world that is not inclusive of my emotions. It's not inclusive of my belief about things, and it's not inclusive of my opinions or ideas. In 2016, I took a trip down south, and in that time, I was fully believing that Trump had no chance to win. Like, I'm like, he's not going to win this. This is crazy. This guy's like one of the biggest jokes, you know? Just because he was on TV and etc. I was like, I remember him from You Got Fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. I remember that guy, you know? And I'm like, he's not going to be president. That's crazy. But then I saw something that shifted my mind. I saw white poverty in a way. I forget where we were, but we were somewhere near the Carolinas. And I was like, oh my goodness, like these is young white babies walking around like extremely lacking. You could just feel it. And at that moment I said, oh, my perception of reality is skewed by my belief about who he is and not who America is. I saw Donald Trump, the TV star, the entrepreneur, the socialite. I didn't see who he was talking to. In that moment, I had a decision to make. Do I stick with my internal environments, belief, ideas, and opinions of this man, or do I look at America and say, this guy is talking to people who have not felt like they have been spoken to? So let's talk about objective reality or objective perception versus subjective perception. Because this is where it needs to go. This is how I was able to predict him winning by this much this year. I was talking to one of the homies, and I was like, yo, Trump is going to smash this year. I could feel it. I could see it. And he's like, nah, it's going to be close. Like, she might pull it off. I'm like, nah. In this perception, this world of perception, we call that the world of perception. In this world of perception, you can look at things through two lenses. You can look at it through your past belief systems and your past ideas, or you could look at it for exactly what is happening right now. I'm talking about so objective that you suspend your ideas around what you may even call things, or you suspend your ideas about what you believe will happen, and you look at it consequentially, okay? If that hits that, then that has a reaction. Like almost learning to look at math like look at the world like a math equation. And the equation doesn't matter how you feel about the equation. There's rules and principles to the way this math equation works. And whether you feel anxious, excited, or you love math, the equation does not change. The variables and their meanings do not change. The world is very similar today. in forever. Human beings, I always love to say there's probably like 11 type of archetypes for humans. Like, and it's probably 7, 10, 15. I don't know what the actual number is, but there aren't that many archetypes for human beings, and there aren't that many variables for what we actually care about. Living, like actually breathing, thriving. Everybody wants to be in a place where they don't have to struggle. And then we care about the people around us. In this election and in 2016, there was a wave of, dare we call it, liberal ideas sprouting amongst the American population. Everybody's not with those ideas. Some of those ideas actively take power away from those who have traditionally had power. And on this podcast, I don't hold no punches. I'm not here to be politically correct. I'm not here to be sensitive. I'm here just to be honest. White America felt like their power, certain aspects, and honestly, maybe the election showed us a very significant amount, more than 55, 60% of white Americans believe that their power was being taken away, or their value system wasn't being honored, or their traditions weren't being honored. And Donald Trump spoke to that. The crazy thing is, we look at people and we say, oh, but they should care about the way he says things and offending this group. There is a base level need that every single human being has: survival, community, and breath, like literally living. And if somebody is starting to seemingly take those things away from you, even if you perceive that, you're gonna fight like hell to maintain that. And in community, let's break it down, right? Community, one of the values people is a base level anchor of the human experience is the community we belong to. That'd be your wife, your spouse, your husband, your community, your school, your neighborhood, your race, your religion. All those things can equate to a community, right? And what builds and ties those individuals together is there's a common unity of understanding, or of values that are important. If those values begin to be seen as not valuable to another group, that group automatically becomes opposition to you. So in this election, when I'm looking at where Democrats were taking their platform, I gotta just keep it 100 here, man. Sometimes I feel like I want to sugarcoat things and say it smoothly. In my opinion, where Democrats are taking their platform on gender, on trans issues, on abortion, that didn't sit well with the pockets of America that may have had deeper religious or Christian or traditional values. Now, back to the community aspect, if the values of this community here is now being undermined or not valued by this community here, then these communities do not see eye to eye. It's just that simple. So now we're looking at a Democratic Party who is honoring one community's values, a Republican Party who is saying these communities' values are should be upheld. It's automatic division. Now, the truth about this country, when people just love, like, I get being hopeful. I really do. I get being hopeful. But I also value hard line reality more. For example, this country was founded by white men for white families and their value system. Enslaved Africans, and I even believe enslaved Native Americans, were mixed into the bunch of enslaved people. and then you bring immigrants from different nations on top of that. Bring them in. Now you start to have a different demographic developing from the original founders and the intent of the nation. Now this group of, let's call it the others, begin to gain power and ask for things that are not in the value system of the original group. Okay, Obama happens, we gain that. Oh man, the enslaved population becomes the leader of the White House. Come on, man. I gotta just say it how I want to say it. You had the slave become the president of the nation that it once was, that once enslaved it. Like if we could just talk like that, like very generals. The origin population, they ain't rocking with that. That's crazy. They're like, yo, we used to run them. Yeah, I will never forget, man, in high school, I went to a predominantly white high school. Shout out to Patrick Henry High School, like, because everybody wasn't of the story I'm about to explain, and there were good people there too. But I remember being warned by my pops, like, yo, there's a deeper lying perception of blackness that you won't see until it's time for somebody to explore their own rage or their own feeling of lack, and they'll show you what they really believe. My homeboy threw a party. He's a black dude. He's black and Mexican. He looks like a black man with wavy hair. He throws a party out in a neighborhood called Del Cerro. Del Cerro is like a pretty predominant, upper middle class to like wealthy neighborhood. We're in there chilling. It's a nice house that his family owns. We hanging out there. I pull up. I usually didn't party in the neighborhood where I went to school. I party back in my neighborhood. But I'm chilling. We going to school. We chilling. We hanging out with my homeboys. It's the homies throwing a party out here who I actually respect and rock. I'm coming. And then a girl walks in. She's like probably 16, 17. We're in high school, right? And she goes, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful, she's a white woman, white girl at that time. This is a beautiful house. I'm like, and then she turns to her homegirl. I'm sitting like right outside of her purview, right? She turns to her homegirl and goes, whose house is this? And then somebody says, oh, it's, I don't say my homeboy's name. It's Tony's house. That's not his real name, but just for the sake of the story, it's Tony's house. And she turns to her homegirl and goes, this nigger owns this house? This is how I feel most Americans who hold on to old traditional ideas of where they should be see when other groups are progressing. Like, no, how dare they do that before me, or do that as me, or do that in the presence of me, or do that. They shouldn't hold that much power. So I look at America through a very simple lens. The fruit never falls far from the tree, and the seed can never out-program its original programming. An orange seed cannot become an apple. A strawberry seed cannot become a lemon. The intent of the nation's origin 100% will dictate what the action is 10, 15, 20, 100, 200, 300, 400 years later, until that seed is no longer and another one is planted. And you could plant other seeds around the old tree, but the old tree is still there. So we're trying to plant new seeds around America as if it will dominate the origin intention, but the origin intention is the origin intention. Next thing I want to talk about. That's how I'm telling you, you can learn to see reality very objectively by suspending your own beliefs and your ideas about a particular thing and looking at it almost with a blank mind and saying, what's happening here? And just to point something out again, The intention of somebody, the origin intention of somebody is usually never trumped. No puns intended. The way somebody moved into your life in the beginning, that usually plays out through the relationship, or usually plays out through the existence of y'all friendship or whatever it is. So having an objective perception versus a subjective perception, you can really see through the bullshit clear as day, like fog lights and fog. You just, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to the story, but we ain't gotta go there. How else do I feel about this election? I'm not worried, to be honest with you. Black folks, minority groups, folks who felt like they were on the fringe or outside the power dynamics of America or any nation, we know what we need to do to level ourselves up. I'm one that believes that black folks, stats will tell you home ownership, business ownership in the black community was higher in segregation times. I'm not a segregationist where I'm like, we need to segregate. But the truth of the matter is, when we were operating within our own cultural values and with each other and those who really aligned with us, we were well off, or we were better off on the statistic level. You know, of course, there was a lot more pressure on the community. So, you know, shit was hella rough. But when we were doing for ourselves and not expecting somebody who had told us they were our sworn enemies of the past, looking for them to help you up, like, that don't work that way. So, my statement to you is that we need community. You need to be a part of a community that shares your common unity in values. You unify on a value level, on a belief about the future level. You feel me? We as a people, we gonna be fine. But we're not gonna be fine if we think that our power exists outside of us. You came from the Most High, the God, I and I, the Creator, the Supreme Being. That is your power source. So you don't need to feel depleted when you cast your power to somebody else via vote and they don't choose the person you voted for. Your power source didn't disappear. You're still plugged in. But you having a perception that this person was going to shift an individual human being who shits and piss and has stinky breath just like you in the morning time was going to change your life. That's not it. You can still, in any atmosphere, shift your life. Now, there may be more perceived or real obstacles in your way, but you're smart. You got divine intelligence. You have your intelligence. You have artificial intelligence to figure out how to maneuver around obstacles. And if you're maneuvering around obstacles with people who cherish your values, then you got something. You got an army, you got a team, you got a community. Maybe one day you got a nation. I also want to say this too. This is why it's very important to hold on to your culture. Because I think I'm gonna talk for black folks at this moment. I think a lot of black folks try to hold on to American culture as our culture. And when it does, it puts us into a system of belief from a community that is called America that never had our best interest at heart from the root. Remember what I said earlier? The seed that is an apple will never become an orange. It just doesn't happen that way. So to adopt, this statement is particularly for black folks. So to adopt your former slave nation's culture as your own is highly fucking problematic. Pre-slavery, you had something. Pre-colonized, for my non-black people, pre-colonization, you had something. Pre-Western domination, you had a culture. And that culture was set with a set of values that related your identity back to a power source that wasn't outside yourself, that wasn't related to another human being who could say, I can choose to give you or give you not. You were already given everything. Man, this is my reflection on the election. I want motherfuckers to know you got the power, man. You got power that does not depend on another human being. You gotta be thinking to drive that point home. You can even create a family, which lets you know that you can create your community. Come on, you're not hearing me. A man and a woman can get together and create a child. Another human being you can hopefully program right and depend on in the future. You feel me? So like, you don't need another person. I guess you do need another person because you need a spouse to create a kid with. So I hear that. That point, man, I've been the strongest. But my point is, no man or woman holds the keys to your destiny. You were already given the keys and the doors already been opened, predetermined before you even touch your feet on this here earth soil, on a spiritual level. If we really want to rise above this moment, we're going to have to dip back into our spiritual foundation. Yo, when somebody passes away and you go to that funeral and you go to that repast or you go to that viewing and you see their body, what sparks to you is, oh, they're not even there. The shell is there. The shell may spark memories, but the person that you know is not in there anymore. The soul, the life force energy is gone. That lets you know that you are deeper than the physical experiencing you are experiencing. I also want y'all to be careful with this election and thinking about your belief system, your beliefs being so daunting. It's a lot of energy in the world right now. I'm talking about the world is reverberating off of this past decision, correct? The world is reverberating. That's that's atomic energy bubbling right now. You don't want all that energy to go into negative thoughts. You don't want to fuel or push into your life force. You don't want to push your life force energy into a negative thought, because your thoughts become your reality. I literally thought today, let me go record a reaction video to the election. And now I'm doing it. My thoughts created in a physical world where now you're experiencing it too. So your beliefs, your ideas, what you give energy to, it will expand. With all due respect to those who are worried in this moment, I'm not.
Well, thank you for tuning in to that reaction video on the election. I really, really hope you found some value in it. I'm going to add a spiritual mindset, well-being principle to the most random of topics. So just rock with me. Thank y'all for tuning in to Living Good with Dom. We're going to keep this thing rolling. I'm going to teach through reality. I'm going to teach through what's actually going on, teach through stories, conversations, lessons. I truly believe that you can go from just living okay to knowing that life is good. All right, peace.